Welcome, my dear students of class 10 to my history class. Today's points are as mentioned in the board. Please look at it. Number 1 point, salient points of the Indian Independence Act 1947. Number 2, British policy of weakened India. Number 3, number 3, the communal rights. Number 3, the communal riots. The communal riots. One, two, three communal riots, and this one 4. This one 4. Reasons for creation of Pakistan. First point, salient points of the Indian Independence Act 1947. Salient features or salient points of Indian Independence Act 1947. After a long discussions with other political leaders of India, the British government finally decided to cede power to the Indians. It was also decided that in the year 1947, 15th August, the British would give up their dominions for the Indian peoples, and Indians would rule the country by themselves. In order to cede power to the Indians, the British Parliament passed one act. This act is known as the Government of India Act of 1947. Now, what are the salient features or salient points of the Indian Independence Act 1947? It was decided that the Governor General and the Commander-in-Chief would be Indians in the Executive Council. It was also decided that there would be a balanced representation of all communities of India with an equal proportion for Hindus and the Muslims. It was decided that India would frame their own constitution with the agreement of all parties. I was discussing about Wavell plan. It is not a part of today's discussion. I have to discuss about the salient points of Indian Independence Act, my dear students. Please ignore the formal discussion. First one, under the terms of the Indian Independence Act of 1947, it was decided that India would become two dominions. One for the Hindus, another one for the Muslims, and that would be effective from 15th August 1947. Pakistan was to consist of Sindh, Balochistan, Northwest Frontier Province, West Punjab and East Bengal, and the rest was to be India. It was also decided that the British government would give up all control over the affairs of the dominions after 15th August. It was also decided that the office of the Viceroy would end and be replaced by the Governor General in each dominion. It was also decided that the constituent assemblies of both the countries, India and Pakistan, would frame their respective constitutions and decide whether to stay within the Commonwealth or not. It was decided that the office of the Secretary General of India would be abolished. The princely states were given the choice of either joining the Dominion or Commonwealth or remaining independent, staying independent. The princely states that till the new constitution came into existence, it was decided that the dominions and all provinces would be governed by the Act of 1935. The legislature of each dominion would have full powers to make laws for the respective dominions. The Governor General was given the powers to modify or adapt the Government of India Act 1935 by March 1948. The Constituent Assembly of each dominion would exercise the power of the central legislature. So this pact was passed by the British Parliament, and it was decided that India would become a free country. So it became free after 200 years of colonial government in India. It was also decided that the two-nation theory of Ali Jinnah ultimately was accepted by the British. The British decided that the bloodshed, killings, horrors, communal tensions, riots between the two communities of India, the Congress and the Muslim League, should be stopped. Since they decided to cede power to the Indians, they could not ignore, they could not neglect their responsibilities. Since that very country was their colony and they ruled for about 200 years. So while leaving that country, it should be their responsibility to bring a reconciliation between the two countries, to establish good understanding between them. That's why they decided to talk to not only Pandit Nehru but also to Muhammad Ali Jinnah. As a result, Ali Jinnah was given a chance to make it clear his concept of two-nation theory. Ali Jinnah openly said to them, the Muslims were not majority in India, they had no majority, they were, they had no much, percentage of share in the Legislative Assembly, Executive Council. That's why they should protest. They had to demand a separate state for the Muslims. They demanded their political, institution. As a result, the Muslim League was established. Now they are demanding a separate state for the Muslims, Pakistan. And since the British ultimately accepted it and recognized the two-nation theory of Jinnah, now there will be no political tension, no bloodshed, no communal riots, and both the two communities would live happily, would live peacefully in India and Pakistan. Another most important point, that was the Governor General was given the power to adopt the Government of India Act 1935 by March 1948. The Constituent Assembly of each dominion would exercise the power of the central legislature. So these are the important, salient points of the Government of India Act of 1947. The next one, reasons for the creation of Pakistan. The British policy to weaken India. What is this? Communal tension was encouraged by the British in order to keep the power of the Congress in check and allow the British to remain in India. Later, they felt that a smaller and weaker India would be less of a threat to them. The Indian leaders realized that it should be better to have a weaker India than being threatened by foreign powers. That's why they ultimately accepted the two nation theory of Jinnah. The Congress leaders accepted the two nation theory of Jinnah, and Muhammad and uh, Mountbatten also agreed to divide India into two dominions, India and Pakistan. Pakistan was the demand of the Muslim League since the Muslims were minority in India. They had not majority in India. In order to make their country, in order to establish their image as Muslims in India, in order to, you know, in order to, make sure the demand of Pakistan, they were able to make the Congress leaders understand that the demand of Pakistan for the Muslims was important. In that sense, the country would be divided, and finally there would be no political tension, there would be no misunderstanding, and both the two countries would run successfully, and their healthy relationship would be strengthened more and more strongly. That's why partition was compulsory, partition was inevitable. Finally, in presence of the Congress leaders and the decision taken by the Muslim League and the Congress, India was divided into two halves, one half for the Hindus and another half for the Muslims. And Muslims obtained a new country, Pakistan. So this is about the nation, the final phase of the Indian national movement. Next day, a new nation will be introduced. Thank you.